Yeah. We're here today because this goes beyond a foreign policy issue. This is an issue for the core of America's democracy. The key issue is, did the Trump campaign collude with Russian hackers in the cyber burglary of the Democratic National Committee and related entities? And a related question is whether Trump's gratitude is preventing an appropriate response to Russia's interference with democracy, or whether his fear of what they might have on him is preventing that appropriate response. Mr. Chairman, we need more than one hearing on this subject, and we need ultimately a 9/11 style commission. That's why so many of us have co-sponsored the Protect Our Democracy Act. The ranking member mentioned his bill, the Ingle-Conley Secure Our Democracy Act, because we do need tough sanctions to respond to what Russia has done. And ultimately, we need a special counsel or special prosecutor in the Department of Justice. I formally urged Loretta Lynch to appoint one. She said no. Now, various Republican members of the House are saying yes. I want to put in the record an effort by our minority staff of this committee to just list some of the the connections and meetings between the Trump campaign and Russia and its officials. Now, I've been involved and seen this from a political side, and I know how tough it is to get a meeting with senior officials in a political campaign. If you can't deliver a whole lot of money or a whole lot of votes, you're not going to get the meeting. So I would think in a campaign you'd want to spend as few minutes as possible with foreign ambassadors. Ambassador Baer, does the British or Indian ambassador get a large number of meetings with senior officials? I mean, I'm sure they'd like them, but do they get them when they seek them, or is it typical to just do as few minutes of meeting as possible?
I'm sure there are others who are much better placed to answer your question on a kind of on a consistent basis, but just anecdotally, it was not uncommon for me with the 56 other ambassadors at the OSCE to get a request from one of them that they had an official maybe in their government who was traveling to the U.S. And who wanted to meet with one of the campaigns. I'm not aware of any of those requests actually being fulfilled for precisely.
They want them. Campaigns are focused on.
It was difficult, yes.
I want to turn your attention to the 35-page dossier put forward by Christopher Steele. He's the British spy, or former British spy, and keep in mind, he was paid by Trump's enemies. Nothing in that dossier has been disproved. Parts of it have been proved to be true, and I hope to God that parts of it are not true, particularly the salacious parts. The Trump administration has just called the whole report garbage, but they haven't denied specific parts of it, except in one case that I'm aware of, and that is the report says that Michael Cohen, Trump's personal lawyer, met with Russian officials in Prague. He responded by tweeting the front of his passport and stating, "I've never been to Prague in my life." Now, obviously, the front of the passport doesn't teach us anything, but it causes us to want to look inside the passport. But Ambassador Baer, isn't the Czech Republic part of a Schengen zone so that an American visiting Prague typically wouldn't have a Czech Republic stamp in their report? They'd fly into Paris, they'd fly into Frankfurt, and only be stamped there. Does the absence of a Czech stamp mean an American hasn't been to Prague in their life? Simple question.
No, the absence of a Czech stamp does not mean that an American hasn't been to Prague. I have been to Prague, and I do not have a Czech stamp, I believe, in my passport.
But you have been to Prague in your life?
I have.
Yes.
I drove there from Vienna.
And finally, I'd address you, and then if we have time, the other members. This is a 35-page report that talks an awful lot about the internal machinations of the Russian government. I assume most of you have read the report. Does it ring true? Is that the way things happen in the Kremlin? Ambassador Baer?
I think obviously the Kremlin is a very complex organization, but I think it is fair to say that the Kremlin operates in a way that is difficult for us to imagine because it is so driven by the corrupt and authoritarian tendencies of the Putin
Mr.
regime.
Doran?
When it comes to how the Kremlin is operating, does it ring true? Obviously, this committee is in a much better, and other committees are in a much better position to answer that question. I would say that clearly Russia's system of governance is fundamentally different than ours, and I would stop there before speculating.
I'll yield back.
We've got to go to Mr. Dana Rohrabacher of California.